The 2024-2025 NHL Season Preview continues here on Couch Potato Diary. As we look ahead to this season, we've been doing a little bit of like, okay, what did we learn last year? But now we start to progress into the, okay, these teams are really good portion of the conversation. And so today, looking at the most talented teams in the league, maybe not necessarily like the most cohesive or built the best to win or anything like that. It is just when we stack them all up, who's got the most talent? And so I will say, for a little bit now, I have had the Toronto Maple Leafs on this list. And for the first time in a while, I don't. I just feel like this is a team that obviously their high end talent is very good, right? Marner, Nylander, Matthews, fantastic. I do consider Tavares someone as potentially taking a step back. I look at some of their depth issues, and I can't put this team there anymore. And I know this is supposed to be a list that isn't about like, oh, well, can they do it in the playoffs or whatever, and it's just supposed to be about talent. But I also think that we have a lot of teams that have built up their talent over the last little while, and so Toronto just having like a very top-heavy roster isn't enough anymore. So, coming in at number 5, it's the New York Rangers. They get on this list mainly because of the progression of Lafreniere. And if he can take or kind of stay at that level, and Kakko can take a bit of a step here, then all of a sudden you got something. You have one of the best goalies in the league, you have one of the best defensemen in the league, and you have one of the best players in the league. Pretty good. And to go along with those guys, there's Zibanejad, Kreider, like I said, Lafreniere, Trocheck on this team as well. And I think Schneider has a chance to take a jump forward for the Rangers this year, that there is just so much high-level talent on this team. And then I think they've built the depth out with some exciting young pieces as well. Really, really well. So the Rangers come in at number 5 for me. At 4, it's the Colorado Avalanche. Best defensive pair in the league in Makar and Taves. You have McKinnon, who is still a top 3 player in this league. You have Rantanen, who is probably like a top 15 or 20 player in the league. And you have the championship pedigree of a lot of pieces that they have been able to build around. Yes, they do seem a little bit more top heavy, and we just kind of flogged the Leafs for being that. But you have a core that has proven it, and you have a defensive group that can be one of the better in the league. And so I can't not have Colorado on this list. At 3, it's Vegas. They've lost a bit, right? This has not been a good offseason for the Vegas Golden Knights. With Chandler Stevenson going, Jonathan Marchessault going. Those are heart and soul types of players that have left. What you have left is Adin Hill, who I think is pretty good. You still have a blue line that's absurd with Pietrangelo, Hanifin, and Shea Theodore. That 1-2-3 is stupid. Shea Theodore would be a number 1 on a lot of teams, and at least a number 2 on most. And the fact that he's a 3 behind Pietrangelo and Hanifin is just nuts. And then you have McNabb after that. And then up front, again, they've lost a bit of depth. There is no questioning that. But you still have Eichel, Stone. You have Hurdle now. You have just so much high-level offense. The depth, just as an organization, they've had trouble building it out because they trade all their draft picks away, and they're still kind of new, so that they haven't been able to really progress into that depth area just yet. But I do think they have a few pieces that could kind of contribute. But when you look at the high-level talent on this team, and goddamn, is it there, man? So the Vegas still makes this list at number 3. At 2, it's the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl were 1 and 2 on my best players in the NHL list. And so, yes, again, got on Toronto for being top heavy, but when you have 1 and 2, you deal with it. Bouchard took a big step. Ekholm has been a steadying presence on that blue line. Darnell Nurse, I think, had a rough playoff, but is still one of a very good defender, I will say. And then up front, obviously, we know who they have. But also, you have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who is a year removed from a gigantic season. Zach Hyman, who scores 1 billion goals. You have added Arvidsson, who I think will add a little bit of that sandpaper that teams like. You have Skinner, who can help out with some scoring depth stuff. Like, it is a very, very talented team. And so they get to number 2. But in a number 1, they are the Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. When you look at a team that has Barkov, and Matthew Tkachuk, the goaltending situation with Bobrovsky and eventually Spencer Knight. And then on the blue line, Forsling and Ekblad, who were amazing in the playoffs last year. Yes, they do lose Montour, but still, when you look at this roster top to bottom, this is a very, very good hockey team and a very talented hockey team. And that is why they are number one on my list for the most talented teams in the NHL going into this season. Doesn't mean they'll win the cup, although they did last year, but they are the number one most talented team on my list this year.